Hi and welcome back to Vitamin English with Mel. Today we'll be doing a lesson on the basics of question tags. Please remember to like, add and subscribe to Vitamin English. So let's look at question tags. If you aren't sure what they are, some examples of question tags are asking the following. Won't we? Did she? Are you? Haven't they? Hadn't we? And have I? Etc. Today I will teach you how to create a question tag and how to use it correctly. So why do we use question tags? We use them to check or confirm the statement we have just made. It's kind of like asking, right? Or do you agree? Question tags are always added onto a statement. They go at the end of the statement and make you sound more natural. To make a question tag, you start with a statement and follow 5 steps. Remember that the statement will never change. Something will just be added to the end of it. So to start, let's look at these examples of statements and then we'll apply the 5 steps to them. Our statements are: number 1, she is happy. 2, we are going out. 3, the dog is big. 4, they weren't there. 5, the vase isn't very nice. And 6, my sisters haven't got the flu. Remember, we are going to add the question tag by doing 5 steps. The first step is to look for the subject. To remind you, subjects are people or things that we are talking about. We can divide subjects into singular or one thing and plural, which is 2 or more things. On the singular side, we have I, singular you, he, she, and it. On the plural side, there is we, plural you, and they. We will talk about subjects in more detail in another video. So, in our example statements, number 1 says, she is happy. Can you tell what the subject is? It is she. Next is, you are going out. And the subject is you. Third, we have, the dog is big. Here, we don't have the words I, you, he, she, it, we, nor they in the sentence. So what do we do? Remember that a subject is a person or a thing. In this case, we have a thing, the dog. A dog is only one thing, so we look at the singular side. Therefore, it could be a he, she, or it. If you know the sex of the dog, you can use the he or she, but let's say for this lesson that we don't know its sex, and we'll call the dog an it. Moving on to number 4, they weren't there. The subject is they. Fifth, the vase isn't very nice. This is like number 3, where we have to work the subject out. The thing is the vase. It can't be a he nor a she, as unnatural nouns in English have no gender. So we will call the vase an it. Lastly is number 6. My sisters haven't got the flu. Here, the subject comes from my sisters, which is a plural. So this subject has to come from the plural side. So what could this one be? It would be they. Good job if you got it right. Now that you have found the subjects, let's move on to step number 2, finding the primary or modal auxiliary verb in the statement. That's a lot to say, so let's just call it the main verb. This verb is easy to find as it is the verb that usually comes right after the subject. So looking at our main sentences, I've left the subjects in so you don't forget them. Let's go to number 1. She is happy. The verb is. In you are going out, the verb is are. The dog is big. the verb is. In they weren't there, the verb is weren't. The vase isn't very nice, the verb is isn't. And in my sisters haven't got the flu, the verb is haven't. That is step number 2, which is quite an easy step. Let's go on to step number 3. This one is very important and mustn't be forgotten. It's making the positive verbs from step 2 into negatives, and the negative verbs are to be made positive. Something is negative if it's got a not or an N''T in it. Remember that to make a question tag, you need the statement and the tag. One will always be positive and the other negative. If the statement is positive, the tag will be negative. And if the statement is negative, the tag will be positive. Let's look at our example. If the statement includes the verb are, then the tag will have the verb aren't. And if the statement has the verb isn't, which is negative, then the question tag will have the verb is. That's right. Good job. Let's look at our 6 sentences for step 3. Number 1's verb is. So, is that a positive or negative? It's a positive word. How do we make it negative? By adding not or N''T to it. In this case, is becomes isn't. It's quite easy, isn't it? Number 2's verb is are, which is also positive. So it becomes aren't. Remember that we use are in the statement and aren't in the question tag. Number 3's verb is again. So we do what we did at number 1 and we make it isn't. Number 4 is weren't, which has a not at the end, which means it's negative. So we have to make it positive. What is the positive of weren't? It's pretty easy, right? It's were. Number 5's verb is isn't, which, as we know, is the negative of is. And lastly, number 6's verb is haven't, which is also negative and so becomes have. Right, we have done steps 1 to 3 and only have 2 more steps to go. For our 4th step, all we need to do is swap the subject and the verb. So let's look at sentence number 1. Our subject is she and our verb is. Remember that our verb has been changed into a negative, so it's now isn't. So all we do is swap the subject and the verb. So the tag now is isn't she, which will make number 1, she's happy, isn't she? Easy, right? So let's do it for all the rest. We'll start with the subjects and then the verbs and then we'll swap them. Before I go through all the sentences, let's quickly do the 5th and easiest step. Here we are just bringing the words together and changing the punctuation. We turn the full stop into a comma and put a question mark at the end. Simple, right? Let's go through the final sentences with their question tags. 1. She is happy, isn't she? 2. You are going out, aren't you? 3. The dog is big, isn't it? 4. They weren't there, were they? 5. The vase isn't very nice, is it? 6. My sisters haven't got the flu, have they? Great job, guys! Now that we've learned the 5 rules of question tags, let's do some practice. But first, let's look over the 5 question tag steps. Number 1. Look for the subject. Number 2. Look for the main verb. Number 3. Swap the positives and negatives. Number 4. Swap the subject and the verb. And number 5. Replace the full stops with commas and put a question mark at the end. Now, to practice our question tags using the 5 rules we've just learned, we're going to look at these 6 sentences. Number 1. My dad is funny. 2. We must leave now. 3. You aren't happy. 4. The chair isn't very comfortable. 5. Your friend and you are late. And 6. She did her job well. Starting at number 1. My dad is funny. The first rule is to look for the subject. Do you see it? It's he, because it comes from my dad. The second rule is to look for the verb, which is. Thirdly, we make positives negative and vice versa. So is becomes isn't. Fourth, let's swap the subject and the verb, so it becomes isn't he. Finally, we do the punctuation and bring it all together. My dad is funny, isn't he? And that's it. Not too difficult, is it? For our second example, the statement is, we must leave now. Step 1 is the subject, which is we, and the verb is must. We make must into a negative, and it becomes mustn't. Then swap the subject and the verb so that it's mustn't we. Then bring it all together. We must leave now, mustn't we? This is getting easier, isn't it? I'll let you do a few more by yourself. The third statement is, you aren't happy. How would you add a question tag to that? The answer is, you aren't happy, are you? Did you get it? If so, well done. Always remember that if the statement is a negative, the question tag will be positive. The next one is, the chair isn't very comfortable. Add the question tag on for this one, and remember to choose the right subject. Do you think you got the answer right? It's, the chair isn't very comfortable, is it? If you got that right, you hit the nail on the head. The next one is, your friend and you are late. What is the full statement, including the question tag? It is, your friend and you are late, aren't you? This one uses the plural you for the subject, as it's talking about two people. And the last one is, she did her job well. What would the question tag for that be? It's, she did her job well, didn't she? Did you get them all right? Let me know in the comments below. And if you would like to practice some more question tags or have any questions about them, please email me at vitaminenglish123@gmail.com and let me know that you're inquiring about question tags. Did you notice the idiom that I used in this video? I used the idiom to hit the nail on the head. Always remember that idioms are not said literally. It's a saying where we use words in an unusual or imaginative way which has a figurative meaning. We will learn the difference between figurative and literal in another lesson. Every language uses idioms, so if you're still not sure what an idiom is, you can easily translate it into your own language. The idiom to hit the nail on the head is a phrase that means to get something exactly right or to do something perfectly. Remember that it isn't literal and we don't hit our heads with our nails. It comes from this kind of nail, the one you use with a hammer. This part of the nail is called the head. So if you hit the nail straight on the head, the nail does its job perfectly. Some examples of to hit the nail on the head are: 1. You hit the nail on the head with your brief at the company meeting this morning. This means that the person got the brief 100% right for what the company needed. 2. The designer hit the nail on the head with her design. The designer has therefore chosen the perfect design for all parts of the project. And number 3. You brought exactly what I was needing for the party today. You've hit the nail on the head. This means that what the person brought for the party was exactly what was needed. Can you think of your own examples? If so, put them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, add and subscribe to Vitamin English. See you in the next lesson.